sometimes you have to make tough decisions. These decisions may include that you have to downsize. And I don't know if any one of you ever had to do this. I had to quite a number of times during my career. It's never a great night before this is going to happen. You never have an easy night where you just go to sleep and next day you're going to fire someone, or you're going to lay someone off, or you're going to say that a contract is not going to be extended in the future. Now we have to see, how do we deal with that? We're going to talk about this because I received quite a number of emails of people who said, well, we might face a recession and we like to know about this topic before we may have the immediate need of what to do. And I thought that's a good idea. Thank you very much for these emails here. And we're going to talk about downsizing today. I know it's not the most Christmassy or the most festive topic, but downsizing might mean that your organization is safe from extinction. And of course, it is reasonable to do that. It is never beneficial for anyone when you save a couple of jobs to, at the end, lose all of them. Downsizing sometimes is necessary, and data leads the decision, especially in free enterprise. Of course, you may now say, well, in the public sector, that is not really the case. Yes, and that's exactly the problem. Often, especially when you now hear that the public sector in many ways wants to say, hey, we want to be less bureaucratic. I'm still wondering how they want to do that, especially when you have public servants who are often assigned for lifetime. Not in every country, of course, but in many countries, public servants are assigned for a lifetime. And in certain positions, that makes sense because you don't want that suddenly politicians just exchange people who are politically not the ones you want to have on that position, because that never leads to anything great. However, many positions, we have to say, are not needed to be assigned for a lifetime, and they still are. So good luck with justifying how you want to spend taxpayers' money on that, because often you see when they say it's going to be less bureaucratic, you often see no effect. However, even in free enterprise, when you downsize, you can, of course, say data's lead the decision, and making data-driven decisions is exactly the right way. I addressed this on LinkedIn just this week and had very positive discussion with people who texted me about this. However, you always have to see there's a social aspect to it. There are laws you have to consider, and ethics and morals as well, because often the public eye, the public assumption, the public judgment, people of the general public, when they hear about what happens there, will make a comment on what you have done, which might affect your reputation and your chance to recruit talent in the future. However, there is never one single right way, but the good aspect is so much has been done wrong in the past that you can derive from that what should you never do, because it does not work. And by the way, if someone now comes up and say, well, in other countries, it's so much better, in the US or the UK, you can just lay off people, especially in the US, contract at will, you can fire people any day. Well, that's a both-sided game, isn't it? Because it means that when you have very talented people, and you, by the way, you don't have to go to the US for that. I'm in Switzerland right now when I record this, and in Switzerland, you can fire people within 30 days and they're gone. There is no protection. There are no unions, absolutely nothing. And when you now say, oh, that is paradise, just look into what you have to pay people here. Because, of course, when there's higher risk involved, it also means you have to pay people more to cover the risk, because otherwise it would be illogical. People expect more money to be able to make savings exactly for that case. Also, it's the both-sided game. When you have talented people, they can quit within 30 days as well. It means that when you have a very important talent on board, and that person probably says, well, I'm going to take all my vacation, plus a couple of bridge days because public holidays are in nice places this year. And suddenly they walk in on Friday afternoon, 4:55, and they say, by the way, I quit. Here are my keys and good luck from here. It is very important that you never go down the route of, oh, it's so much better in any other country, because that is never a valid argument, especially when you want to be in that country, go there. Especially in free enterprise, you have the chance to move anywhere you like. You have to chance to relocate your factory, your building, your corporation, especially when it's a virtual service or it's knowledge-led and it's not led by production facilities. Then you can move anywhere you want pretty quickly. So when you claim it is better somewhere, well, you're a senior leader. Just go there. You stay in the place for a certain reason. So don't go down the wrong route of arguments, because people will quickly call you out. So now we have to look at how to do it better. And of course, I'm going to talk about how Elon Musk is now downsizing at Twitter. You probably expected that. Elon Musk was always obsessed with becoming a case study. Just to give you a bit of background on that, the Harvard University uses the so-called case study method. Case study method means that you get a case study, and instead of just hearing theories from a professor who's standing at a lectern in the room, you walk through the case study, you work through the case study, and everything you learn is derived from that case study. And that means this case study is going to be the leading part of the learning experience. But when you now say, well, that sounds amazing, well, it is. However, you can't just now print out some case study and then try to put yourself in the room and do the case study method. It's very complex, very complicated. You must be fully qualified to do that. I did, as you can see on my LinkedIn, quite a number of trainings with Harvard University to qualify myself to deliver that case study method. And congratulations, Elon Musk now is close to becoming a case study, because the Washington Post, one of the world's most well-known newspapers, a journalist there, Michelle Singletary, wrote, and I quote, that Elon Musk is very close to becoming an MBA case. A case study he's becoming a case study for MBA students on how not to downsize. So congratulations here to Elon Musk, and also congratulations to all the Elon Musk fan people who ranted in my inbox during the last weeks and say, oh, it's all going so well, I'm just criticizing because I'm envious, etc., etc. Look at the stock exchange, look at how Twitter is doing, look at how Tesla is doing, look at their reputation, and then tell me it's going well. And then tell me, by the way, of these oh so proud Elon Musk fan people, when Elon Musk said he's going to hire all the engineers now from India, good luck trying to run an organization when you just got fired and you know anyone else who's going to be rehired is working for a fraction of your money. Good luck leading organizations that way, because this will clearly not work. Getting back to the facts of how to do it better, you need to have a structured approach, because you can expect that there will be a massive go against you as soon as you announce that there will be a downsizing. It's going to be personal, it's going to be a legal aspect to it, and there's going to be a reputational aspect to it. And if you're a larger organization, press is also going to probably question, what have you done and why did you have to do that? Especially on the personal side, especially when you know people longer. Laying people off, firing them when you know them for longer is always tough. So probably think about what you say, because many people often say then, could you please keep it professional? Could we please just stick to the facts? And the first step people will take then is go to a lawyer and say, well, let's talk about the fact there's nothing more professional than to meet in a courtroom. And you know, as an employer, you're not going to win there. Only when people probably committed a criminal offense against the organization or you, then you might get away with laying them off with nothing. But in most cases, as an employer, in court, you're not going to have a great time. So when you now choose who are the people you need to get on the list of, well, probably people who will be laid off or have less hours to work, or people who will not have their contract extended, data gives the answer. I address this on LinkedIn because I often see that especially motivational, inspirational speakers often say you have to trust your gut feeling. And that is the worst. That is by far the worst decision you can ever make. The gut, as it is now also with Johns Hopkins University proven by science, has a certain impact. There's a certain tissue in the gut that is connected to the brain. However, when you only react on a gut feeling, it means that you often discriminate and you heavily follow your biases. So it often you have a go against women, against minorities, and this is going to lead to a non-diverse organization of people who are pretty similar to you. And there is no point in leading an organization like that, because it is not going to succeed. Data gives the answer. Of course, you have to look into the law, because when you now downsize only by data, this probably is impossible depending on which country you are now listening. There are certain aspects where you have to follow a certain so-called social sequence. So you cannot lay all people of one age group off because you think they are, in your opinion, too old, which, by the way, already is discriminatory saying that. So when you say a certain age bracket should leave the organization, you should offer them a pretty good package to do so. But besides data, there are, of course, soft factors. I just give you an example. When you now say, well, we need to downsize because we need to save money. So people who are there for a longer time, they probably have a higher income because they have more experience. And that's exactly the soft factor I'm talking about. When you lay off all the non-experienced or the least experienced, or you lay anyone off with more experience than the average person, and suddenly you, let's say, have a product that needs explanation, that needs experience, and you're sitting at the client side with your sales team, and everyone in your sales team doesn't have the practical answers because they don't have the experience. You saved money in the first place, and you lost multiple times that afterwards. It is very important that when you look at soft factors, experience is a core, a critical issue, which you cannot lose, because many different aspects. You can simply put money on the table and get it into your organization. You want XYZ, you can buy it somewhere. However, experience you cannot buy. And if you want to buy experienced people, it normally means you have to give consultancy contracts to former employees who are going to massively cash in on you, by the way, for a good reason. They are now self-employed and they have the right to do that. So when you choose the people who probably will not stay with your organization, step one is look at the data. Step two, then compare your data with what does the law say. And then step three, look at the soft factors and look at how can you proceed from there. If you now have to do the talks, because you, of course, will not lay off, as Elon Musk did, people via email or by sending them a letter to their home, because that is just opening the box of Pandora. People will tear you apart publicly on social media, and rightfully so. So when you have these talks, people need structure. It doesn't mean that they go by checklist where they just tick the boxes, but giving them a certain guideline, training them professionally is a wise decision. So when you have a structured approach, give them a guideline so they know what to say, but also be aware these talks telling people that you have to fire someone, it has an impact on them. No matter how hard you pretend you are or how fact-focused you are, when you lay off people, you don't have a great day before that and you don't have great evenings afterwards, at least in most cases when you're somehow still open for any kind of perception of what reality is about and life is about, especially in today's times. So please keep the amount of talks of that way to a reasonable number. And always make an offer. Give them an offer. So who to talk to when there's any kind of trouble, who to talk to when you need help, who to talk to when you want to talk about your package. And the package is a certain deal that you offer to people when they leave. If you don't offer any package because you say, well, either we can't, we are unable to, we don't want to invest the money, or we can't invest the money, or you simply say we don't want to, then be prepared for a massive downside. Because I just give you an example. When you fire someone and you don't know them too well, probably they were on an average or let's say above the average job in your organization. So they had a certain financial situation. And I'll just give you a situation that happened in one of my consultancy cases. Someone was laid off who already had to pay alimony to a family that his ex-wife now took care of because she left with the children. He agreed to that due to different aspects of his career. He was unable to take care of the children. So his ex-wife, of course, had to receive money for that, which is right, by the way, because you have the accountability. Still, he still has the house and he wants to keep the house, live in the house where he still does. But the 10 years of where the interest rate is binding now just end at the end of this year. And when you look into the interest rate, you probably can see that the monthly rate you have to pay will be multiple times of what you paid before. So you now have to see what is it that you can do that this person does not harm themselves. Because when you now say, hey, that's not my problem, well, it is. Because as soon as someone leaves the door, says, I am now in a financially desperate situation. It was challenging before, but now it's straightforward desperate. So I'm going to do something to me, which is not great. You know what I'm talking about. So when people harm themselves due to your decision, and this comes to public, this gets heard by the general public, they're going to tear you apart for a reason. Because then people will ask, what have you done to protect people's mental health? What have you done in the past? Which countermeasure did you implement? Which measures did you offer during the period where you still had money about mental health? And did you do everything according to how it should be done? And most likely you won't. And then it's open season. And it's not going to end well for you. So be aware, you have to offer ways of contact, and don't tell them, oh, this is some hotline randomly attached to some sort of charity where you can generally talk about something. It must be specific to your offer. So who can you talk to about, let's say, legal aspects, HR aspects, payment aspects? They probably know that, payroll, HR, but also who can you talk to for the process? How do you leave the organization? And then offer a package. When the only package you offer is the brown box where people have a couple of things from their cubicle and then they have to leave the door, be prepared that it's not going well from there, because the money you save, you will pay multiple times of that in damages afterwards. Lost lawsuits, damage to your reputation, the inability to hire talent, recruiting, where you have to spend tons of money only pretending that you're still an employer worth working for, etc., etc., etc. Because one thing you have to prepare for, and that is mistakes will happen. Someone is going to do something wrong. No matter how hard you try, someone is going to do something wrong. And when something goes wrong, there's a 3-step process what you do afterwards. Step 1, you apologize. Step 2, you accept and you openly and publicly admit that you have done wrong. And step 3, you do not, and I say that again, you do not try to blame it on the other person. So you do not say, oh, I am sorry if someone took offense, because that basically says that you say, it's not my fault, you took offense, so it's your fault. It's not an apology, and the apology will not work. People will tear you apart even more, making the damage even worse. We just saw it during World Cup. Sandro Wagner, a German rent-a-mouth in the commentary box of public TV, said that, look at this fan stand where you see all the Saudis in their bathrobes, which is, of course, wildly off the marks. And then afterwards, he said, and of course, public TV said, we apologize for it and we're going to talk about it. Sandro Wagner is going to make a statement. And the statement was, I am sorry if anyone felt attacked. Well, that's not great, because you still say when someone feels attacked, no, you should say, I am sorry, I committed an anti-diversity offense. I have done this wrong, and I hope that you can forgive me. Full stop. That is what you say. You don't waffle around telling them, I'm sorry if you took offense. I'm sorry if someone felt offended, because what you basically say is, I don't see any problem on my side. I only see it on your side. So when something goes wrong, you have to apologize, because people, and by the way, this always means that people will still be angry for an hour or half a day, but then it's done, because people will say, hey, they apologized and the topic is over now, moving on. If you try to pretend you haven't done something wrong, it's going to go on for months, potentially for years. And always take care that, consider one most important aspect. We are acting based on facts. You say we have to lay people off, we have to fire them, we have to stop giving them contracts or not extend their contract due to the data we see, often related to money. That is a fact-based, data-driven decision. The reaction is driven by emotions. The reaction by the person, the reaction by the public eye, by the public hand, by the public eye, by anyone from the general public. When you see any kind of consequences, you always have to consider that they are led by emotions. And it doesn't mean that they have the right to talk down on you, but most likely they will. And if you don't show them some sort of tolerance of that, of course you don't have to, but when you don't have to and you say, oh, you can't do X, Y, Z, people will take a very close look into your organization and look at every single detail. If anything ever went wrong, they will publicly address it. And that is not what you want to do, because you have a couple of eyes. Let's say you have a team of managers, so probably you have 20 pairs of eyes looking to the general public and 400,000 pairs of eyes looking back at you. And when you say you're not allowed to talk down on me in that way, people will look into your organization asking every detailed question. For example, did you deliver the obligatory HR training and GDPR training by qualified personnel according to paragraph XYZ from law Y? And when you didn't comply with that, that's the next fine incoming. And it will go on like that for years. So be aware of the fact you are acting based on facts, which also means that you are not affected by the negative consequences. The emotions will come back to you. The reaction will be emotional. So have a certain tolerance for reactions you might not feel very comfortable with in the first place. They are often very temporary, and quite a number of them apologize afterwards to you. And of course, I published about this. And of course, some people might now think, well, I have a couple of questions about this, and we're going to get to this in a minute. But first, I have to say thank you very much again for the rankings. We again went top 100 once more. As you can see now on my social media, either his LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, you see nearly every week we're going to hit top 100 somewhere, sometimes in 4, 5, 6 countries at the same time, somewhere in the top 150. And of course, now when you say, well, there are basically 3 options now that you have to do, or 3 steps, which I recommend you to do. So step number 1, send me an email if you have any questions, because this is 100% confidential. This episode came from people asking about what they see probably coming in their industry and how to act on that. So when you have any questions, when you have something very specific where you say, hey, can we talk about a training, workshop, speaking, coaching, consulting, or mentoring, or we need a project interim manager, or hey, we have an event, can you speak there or host it? Of course I can, but when you say, hey, we are now an organization facing that situation, we have these people in these locations, how would you approach XYZ? Let's just talk about that. nb@nb-networks.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the future. And of course, I always offer that you can read my publications as well, which offer a wide range of information at no charge, as long as you go to expert.nb-networks.com. Because when you go to expert.nb-networks.com, you can put in your email address in there. Every Wednesday morning, you receive an email. It's 100% content, ad-free guarantee, where you can then see what is it that you can read about the topic. Because sometimes people say, hey, podcast is good, but I like to have something to read to pass it on to my manager. There you go, offering to you at no charge. And of course, now is step number 3, and that is the most important part. You have to apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you have heard, you will see the positive change that you are looking for. I'm always happy to help you on the way. Let me know if you need any kind of help and contact me anytime. And at the end of this, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.